Hello everyone. Good evening. I hope I'm audible enough. Can we hear me? So, welcome to the third section in the PDMP Tech and AI track. Today we'll be looking at Excel right from foundation, especially as it relates to healthcare. Tonight we have our trainer in, no other than Uche Loretta. Loretta is a data professional working across data analytics, data engineering, and educational technology. She's passionate about democratizing knowledge and empowering aspiring data analysts through training, mentorship, and bootcamp instructions. Over the years, she has supported learners from diverse backgrounds, helping them develop practical data skills to launch successful data careers. With a strong background in research and writing, Loretta has published scholarly works and presented at international conferences. She also contributes to the Federated Engineers as both an engineer and a member of the communication team, supporting technical initiatives and promoting knowledge sharing within the community. Her work is driven by commitment to making data education more accessible and creating opportunities for continuous learning and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, stand a vision for Mrs. Loretta. Yeah, Miss Loretta, rather, you have the floor.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Please confirm that you can hear me. Good evening, and welcome to another session. Please, like I said in the last class, our classes have been very interactive, right? Maybe through reactions or dropping message in the chat box, raising your hand to speak, just to make it interactive, so that everybody, I would know when you are learning and when you are not learning. I don't want you to be talking alone. So I'm going to share my screen so that we get into the business of the day. So today we are finally getting hands-on. The last class, we did a lot of talking where we introduced ourselves to the fundamentals of data analysis. So please can you see my screen? Can everybody see my screen? Hello, can we see my screen?
Yes, we can
Yes,
see your screen.
Yes, you can.
All right. So these are all we did the last class. I hope you've not forgotten, and I was taking time to go through the video because the video is up on the ARSPN YouTube channel. So if you missed the last class, you can go up to their channel and look it up. These are the things we did the last time. Data policy, using data, talked about integer type, integer data types, integer float string data type, talked about good and bad data. What makes your data good? What makes it bad? When it's bad, what can you do to make it good? Because if you analyze a bad data, obviously it is garbage in, garbage out. So your decisions and everything else be affected, right? So you need to like make it good. You discuss at length about those things. They talked about charts and then correlation, causation, data analysis life cycle. These are all the things we did in the last class. So if you still do not understand anyone, please feel free to go ahead and check them out. Then before we start, for people that have actually gone to check the video out and has done one or two related with phone, if there's any question from the previous session, the floor is yours. Just 3 minutes. Then we'll go into what we have proper for today. Is there any question from the last class? Okay, I will take our silence to be a no. There is no question. In the absence of no question, we begin. So today is day one, and we're starting with Excel from the very scratch. I am assuming that everybody here has not used Excel before. So if you've used it before, you might need to pardon us for some minutes of the class where we talk about the things you already know. We will start from scratch. The Excel interface. You open Excel like this. I know this is an Excel workbook. What are the things you're noticing here? Maybe it's very new to you, so we try to make it familiar. Then after that, we go into basic formatting, then how to enter data. So for data entry, because there are some roles that when you sit on LinkedIn, you say data entry specialist. How do you enter data? Or apart from that, coding questionnaires. So we use coding of questionnaires to learn data entry. Then basic formula in Excel. Basic formula, how do you do it in Excel? Then some other things, autofill, cell references, sorting, filtering, how do you handle duplicates? Then I'll show us a few shortcuts, and then it's going to be hands-on. So let's get into it. So we are starting with the Excel interface. Okay. So when you open an Excel, the app is an application. So when you open it, you saw what I did. I just searched Excel from my search bar. Excel. Then you open it. It's one of the Microsoft apps that comes with you using a Windows operating system. There's MS Word, Microsoft Excel. If you are using, there's also Google Sheets. There's Google Docs in place of Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. There's Google Sheets. So if you can use Excel, you probably know how to use Google Sheets. The efficiency Google Sheets has over Microsoft Excel is that as you are doing something on Google Sheets, it is saving in real time. You don't need to be doing Control S to save your work. It is saving it already. And then a lot of persons can work on from their different ends on Google Docs. So this is Google Docs. We use it, for instance, when I went to camp, NYS, everybody, I joined this evaluation team that we analyze this is Google Docs, I'm not Google Sheet. I joined this evaluation team where we need to evaluate the responses of how people are being treated in camp. So this is it. I might not be able to do that because it's confidential. So let me just okay, I cannot open this one. So this is Google Sheets. Assuming that we are a lot of persons working on this thing from our different ends. Somebody can be analyzing the part of the question that was assigned to me. I can stay in my own house and analyze it. So that is what Google Sheet has over Excel. Excel, you have to be there. When I finish, you take your turn and do your own. Or if I finish, I'll save it. I'll send it to you. You open it from your own end and continue from where I stopped. So it depends on what you want to achieve. Then you know the one to use, right? Excel is offline. The other one you have to be online. So those are the two things, but they are basically the same thing. So let's start. When you open Excel, this is what you have. And this is called the ribbon. From here to here, all this place is the ribbon. So the ribbon contains of so many tabs. The file. This is where you can open a new workbook. We are going to talk about what is a workbook. You can decide to take a talk of Excel that because they already have all this tutorial on how can you use it. So you can find it here. You want to explore further outside what you are doing in class. Then formula tutorial, Power Query tutorial, product table tutorial, charts tutorial. You have them here. Then these are the things I'm working on. My most recent things I've opened. How do you save? How do you open? So you find it when you click on what's on file. Now, on the home tab, this is what we have on the home tab. So what you have here is similar to what you have in Microsoft Word, right? You have the tab for formatting. You're going to visit this class. This one is for formatting your numbers, the currency, conditional formatting, and all of that, filtering and all of that. So we'll explore them as we go on. So you can take your time and go through these tabs. We will not be doing it one by one for the want of time. So we can do other things. Then over here, this is called your formula bar. Whatever you have inside these cells would be displayed here. For instance, if I type anything here, it will be displayed here. So most times when you're writing a formula, it is easier and more recommended that you edit from the formula bar so that it will be more flexible for you, right? Then this shows us the active cell. So now let's talk about cell. Now, this is a column. Column is what is vertical and rows are horizontal. So this is row 1, this is row 2, this is row 3, row 4, row 5, right? So the intersection of your column and your row is a cell. This is a cell. This is a cell. This is a cell. So whenever if I move my arrow to this point, I am at intersection of I and 5. So this is cell I5, and this is what shows it, right? This point, whatever I said, tells you that this is the active cell. So if you want to carry something from C, you want to copy what is here, and you want to be sure that that's what you're copying, you can look at your active cell. This is C2, and then you can copy. If you meant to copy the content of this C2, and because the content spilled over to the next cell, and you click here, you would see that if you copy it, it's not going to show anything because nothing is here. So active cell is the cell that you are currently working on or you want to pick. That's why it is active. Now, I've mentioned workbook a lot of times, right? A workbook is like a notebook. So inside the notebook, you have different pages. It might reach up to page 80 leaves, like those notebooks that we use, so 20 leaves, 40 leaves, 60 leaves. So that's like a notebook, but in Excel, they call it workbook. So inside the workbook, there are worksheets. Now, this is a sheet. This is another sheet. This is another sheet. So to add sheets, you just click this plus sign here. So to enter this sheet, I will just simply click here. Enter the next sheet, I'll click here. To rename it, I'll double click on the name and I can rename it as anything I want. So that's the Excel interface. That's how what you see once you open an Excel. Every other thing you will know as you work on it. But these are like the basics. So I will still refer here just to make sure that we've covered everything here. So we'll move on to the basic formatting, right? Now, you might open your workbook, open a sheet, and then you have some data. Let's say here is first name. This place is for SN. We want to take attendance of people on this call. So first name, last. Right? And then it say gender. Let's just work with this. So now you can see that what I have here, the names are not really displaying very well. It's cutting into the next one. Sometimes you see it like this. Sometimes you see it this way. This one is showing very well. So what do you do? So the first thing you do, maybe if you open it here with your Excel open, you would see a small arrow here. So once you highlight it, highlights everything, then you can just double click. If I highlight here, the arrow changes. So that at that point where it changes to a cross, I would double click and then it will display everything for me to open up the cells to accommodate the what is in the cells. So now we can now fill. So let's say that here I have 1, I have 2, and now I want to fill down up to like 1,000,000. It's going to be very tedious for me to start typing this thing 1 to 1,000,000. So in this case, I'll use Excel's autofill to do it. So how it works is that there are so many ways it can work. So once I click at this point, I will double click or I'll drag it. Sometimes it will not do, so you need to drag it. Then it's filling 2 all the way down. And that's not what I want to do, right? That's not what I want to do. So it can copy cells, fill series, fill formatting only, flash fill. So what we just did is flash fill. But I don't want to flash fill 2 down. I want you to pick that pattern of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what do? I would just create a pattern, maybe up to 4. Then I would highlight them. And then I can now drag. And to continue as much as I want it, right? Normally, it's meant to 2 minutes to draw. Don't know why it's not. So it's meant to, let's highlight this and do flash fill. Okay. I'm doing. So you can flash fill. Because the idea is that you don't have to drag all the way down to whatever you want. Like it follows it the way using the pattern. So you have 2, 3, 4. Then I highlight them. Then I click down and then it drops. So let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just to create a pattern that it can observe. And then I click all the way down here. And it fills. So you can still drag it further. So anywhere you want to stop. And then it's faster for us to fill our IDs that way. So we don't want that. So let's work with this. And then we create a first name. Right? So let's say that we have Uchi. And we have Anika. And she's a female. Next person, we have this person. And his last name is, let's see, his last name is this. And it's a male. So the way this thing is now, we want to format it, right? Because when looking at this thing, you have a lot of things here, and then you want to format. Maybe you want the headers to have a different color. For instance, if you use Excel to make reports at the end of each day to submit reports, you would want your supervisor to know that this is report for weekday, what you did for that day, the content of what you did, challenges you faced, and way forward. So you want to highlight the header so that once he looks at the header, it is different from the content of the body. So what do? This is where you use this part, this whole part. I can change my font to Times New Roman. And I can increase the font size. I don't want to do that. I can make it bold. I can make it italic. Like you can play around with it just like you do in Microsoft Word. Then you can give it a background color. Maybe you can give it this color. You can even change the color of the text if you want to leave it this way. So do you want it to be in the center or aligned to the left or to your right, right? So you can play around here. This whole place is for text formatting. Text formatting is your font, your alignment. This place is for numbers. You're going to be using this whole part one by one. So apart from that, you might also want this thing to have borders because the way it is looking now, there are no borders. So I can select everything I have here, and then I click this drop down. These are the different borders you can add. So bottom border, bottom border. If I add it, you will see that there's a difference. This it demarcates, it tells you that this is where my content is stored. So most times you just use all borders, right? So if you highlight, you highlight what you want to give border, maybe from here to here. So, and then I go to my borders and I do all borders. So this is a table. So that's how you create your table, right? Then what other things do you do in your formatting? So for numbers, you might want to change here that the age for this place to be age. So you might want to add your ages here, right? And then if you click on it, it's still showing general. So meaning that it is still in text format and it's very difficult for us to do calculations on it. So at that point, what you can do is to format it to number. And then as formatted it to number, it gave it by default a 2 decimal point. I want to reduce it. This is to increase, and then this is to reduce them to be in whole numbers, right? If it was, this is a currency, I'll format it to have this currency, depending. Now, Nigeria might not appear here, so you might need to do custom formatting. Or in most cases, just add the Naira sign here and then leave it to be numbers. You can change it to percentage instead of this, send it back to number and then make them percents. So this is not an actual percentage, that's what happens, just for demonstration. Now, we might want to indicate that this is 1,000s and hundreds. So this is where this one comes in, your comma. So assuming that what we have here is 2,000 and then 9,000, 900,000. So it is readable to add your commas just like you will do in a normal situation in maths. Then these are what we have for your formats, right? So as you use them, you get more familiar. So the next one, let's do this wrapping text and merging and center. So sometimes you might want to write a lot of things inside a cell. Let's say I search for the definition of something online. Okay, so let's say define. And I copy this report and I go back to my Excel and I place it here. Now, the content spilled all the way to this place. It's like looking at it, you'll see it's here. Meanwhile, it is just on cell E8. Remember, this is our active cell. This is our active cell. I want it to just be in this E8. So there are many things I can do. I want it to appear in this E8. So we can text wrap this whole thing. So we can either do that using merge and center or text wrap or just combining, merging different cells. So when I click here, I go to my, I'm sorry,
Please, if other people are hearing, I can't hear anything again.
I think it's coming from the speaker's
Same
end.
here. Okay.
Um, are we following? So that's how to like wrap and text.
Didn't
No,
hear
we
you
didn't
when
follow.
you
We
were
didn't hear
talking
Please,
you.
ma,
about
please, ma, we
wrapping
weren't
stuff.
we weren't hearing you again. Can you start from this particular point? We weren't hearing you.
How to
Oh,
wrap a text. That's where we stopped. As in,
okay.
we didn't hear your explanation of how to go about doing that.
Oh, okay. So at any point where you don't hear me, you can always come back. So everything here, usually, Excel. I said that Excel do have depends on your version of Excel, right? So you can always highlight what you have here to see what each function does for you. Can always highlight. So here, this is for you to wrap the text. This one is for merge and center that we talked about. So if I want to wrap this text, I would click here and then I would come here. So when I click it, what it does is that it expands it expands that particular row. Because now this whole row is affected so that it can contain the content of this particular cell. So it depends on what you want to do. This might not be the best option, right? The best option you might think might be to expand the whole cells like we've done before. So let's remove this text wrap. Then let's expand. Depends on what you feel is okay for you. So now if we expand, it made just this particular column very long because of the content of this file. Do you see? It just expanded this part. So if you think that this is what we're trying to achieve, you can leave it like this. But this is not what I want. So I'll still bring it back. Then I'll try to extract. I'll highlight this particular cell and click this. Then this is better than what we had before, right? Then in some cases, when you are building a dashboard, you would likely turn off the grid lines. We'll do that later. Grid lines are these lines that demarcate our cells and columns so that we just have a plain background. Now, you might want to add a header. For instance, these headers that we have, if you don't want it to be this way, I can highlight the ones I want to do. This is A1, B1, C1, D1. And then it might not work. I just want to have this is explanation, right? And the explanation, I want it to be a header. I want it to be very good. So I'll highlight these cells and then I'll come to my merge and center. So I'll merge and center it. You see that it deletes, zoom out. It deletes the demarcations that make them the E1, E2, E3. Your eyes should be on this bar that shows the active cell. So when I click here, it changes to E8. When I click here, it changes to F8. If I click here, it changes to E7. Why is it E7? On a normal day, this part will just be the E7. From here to here, it will be the E7. But because we've merged and centered it, the whole cells of E7, F7, G7 up to H7 formed just E7. And they do this thing mostly when you're doing dashboarding or you want to use that part as your header, right? So that's when you do merge and center. Of course, there are other options of merge. You can just merge across, just merge a few cells. Maybe you want to merge these ones, these whole cells like this. Then you write whatever you want to write. Maybe at that point, you can now cut what you have here and put here. Right? Then can unmerge your cells. So we've unmerged it, remove the text wrap, then come here, highlight, and then unmerge. And they are back to normal, right? So that's how these are the basic formatting in Excel. Is it confusing? It's just knowing
Uh,
bold.
Please, Loretta, sorry. I think it's a little bit confusing. Someone is on the good I think because you say you should repeat again. If you explain again.
Okay, so these are the basic formatting. We talked about bold, making a text bold, making it italic, changing the text size, just like you do in Microsoft Word. So I assume that we know how to make it text bold. So the new thing we introduced here is border, the text wrapping, merge and center, right? So we just go over those very new ones. So I assume that we can do bold, can bold the text, can increase the font size, can change the background color. So let's use another example to do the text wrapping and all of that before going to data entry. So I don't know, maybe we should use another table, right? So I want to start another thing here. And like this place, it's still going to be my SN or my unique identifier. So I'll have 001. Then the name of the person is Patience. This is the surname. And Patience is a female. So this is the gender. And then the next person is Uche. Loretta. It's also a female. Now I can use this flash fill to fill down to female, female, female. Right? Because that's the pattern it sees. Now, if this was female, male, and then let's see what happens. We highlight this and fill it down. You can see that it has observed the pattern that we shown it, and it's female, male, female, male, female. So it depends on the pattern that you want it to follow. Just like I said when we were doing this number, it does not only restrict to numbering. On the naming, like the way we have patience and purchase, and you want it to be repeated, I can fill it down. I can highlight this too, and then fill it down. It's going to show us that pattern, patience, purchase. So Excel helps you that things that you do repetitively, it will observe the pattern for you and fill it down. So that's what autofill does for you. Autofill, right? Then the same thing happens here now, and I want to now vary the surnames. So I would use Henry, Kennedy. Then I would want to repeat this just for this example. I don't want to write a lot of things, and then it would follow the same pattern and previous for us. So this is what we are having. Right? Now, I want to format this thing. Let's fill down the number. Sorry. So we want to format. First of all, I want to add borders because I think that if I add borders, it's going to make it look different from the rest of the cells and tell someone that this is the place where my data point is. So I will highlight. How do I highlight? So how I highlight is that I would click that cell that I want to start. So there are two ways you can do it, at least for a start. I'm not using mouse. I'm using my keyboard on my laptop. So when you highlight one, then you click, then you use that arrow. Look at your keyboard. There's this part where there's page down and page up. There's an arrow there. The arrow is there, so you can use them. Okay, sorry, it's not right click, it's shift. I'm used to just dragging. So if you want to do it, you can use your shift, then the arrow, and then down. So I've highlighted the things I want to highlight. And then I would go to borders. All border. Because this is what I want to do. So you can see that it is more readable now to have this than just leaving them the way others are. if you want to format it. Then there is no header, so I'll just copy what I have. If you just want to copy the content, you can also do that. If you copy, instead of pasting here, when you click here, you right click. So there are different paste options. You can just paste Ctrl V. Paste as number. This one works with number. Paste the values without the formatting. Right? So let's undo. So let's back again. I would copy this cell. Ctrl C. I would come here. I don't want to paste it with the formatting. The formatting is the bold, the yellow background, and every other thing that comes with it. I just want to paste the contents. So I would come here, right click, and then I will use different paste options. If I hover on this one to show me that to paste both the content and the formatting. If I hover on this one to just paste the content, nothing else. This one also works when we start dealing with numbers. There's difference between paste as value and paste with your contents. You would see it more when you work with numbers. And then other formatting of other pasting options. This one is just for the formatting, right? So Excel is not hard. You just need to hover on different things to know what you want to do and use it. So in this instance, we just want the content. So I'll just do this type. Now, I want to format this header. I want everything to be uppercase, that's to be capital letters. And then I want it to be bold. And I want the background color to be pink. I can do that. I would highlight this first cell, hold my shift, hold that arrow up to this point because that's what I want to format. Then I can just do Ctrl V to bold, and then I would come here. This is the increase font option. I did do capital and small. This is the font color. Since there are no uppercase, so now I would change this to pink or any color you want, and then I would make it align it to anyhow I want to align it, center, left, right. So just go with this one, right? And then I'm noticing that it does not have these borders that these ones have. So you can still highlight everything and go to your borders, all borders. So now this is looking more like what we want to work with. We're getting somewhere. So now I want to type a whole lot of things inside one cell, and I don't want it to spill into others. For example, we copy this definition online. You can see that the content of this definition is very long. That is why when you go out of the cell, it is spilling over the other cells and it's not looking good. So we want it to remain in its own cell, E9. So there are many things you can do. You can either merge different cells and paste it there, or you can text wrap. Usually people just text wrap it. So like I said, if you don't know where text wrap is, just hover around all these things. And then this is your text wrap or wrap text. I think I'm pronouncing it that first. Wrap text. And then you can do this and it will open it up. The content will just be inside one single cell, right? And yeah, so I think that's basically what we've done. Then for merge and center, I would want to merge these cells together. Merge and center. So the merge and center is that when you merge it, whatever you're writing will appear in the center. So right, so it is in the center. All right, all of these things will be in the center. So I would merge. Let's do the different merge options. So we will measure it. Then let's do for us to measure across. It cannot measure across because measuring across means that you have to select cells between rows and not column wise. So the way I have this ones now, I can do the measure across. So it has merged across rows, not columns. All these things depends on what you want to do. This one, wrapping text is for us to have a wider space to contain things you want to write inside a single cell so that it will not spill into other cells. Merging across is usually when you want to write the title or header for something. This is an explanation you want to do. So I can actually merge across or merge and center. So it's all dependent on the specific things you want to do. That's why you need to know what to do first before you cannot think about what do I need to use to achieve it. I want to calculate the mean ages of students. Now you know that I want to calculate the mean age. The next question that will come to your mind is what's the formula to calculate the mean age? So first thing first, you need to know what you want to do because that will determine what you should do. If I want to write header, it is better for me to merge cells either across or merge and center. Then if I want the content of something to appear in a single cell, I can just wrap the text inside a single cell. So that's the difference between merging your cells and wrapping of text in a cell. And I think that is what we just did now. So the other things are making your text bold, entering data, telling Excel that this is the format I want to or to fill and to fill it for you the way you want. So are we clear on that or you still have questions? Because I want us to take it like small so that when we start going into the deeper ones, we will not find it hard. Are we clear on this basic formatting? Is there anything else that's confusing us?
Clear. Yeah.
Okay. So now data entry and questionnaire. So when I finish school, as a student, I don't know if there are students on the call. As a student, and even shortly after my graduation, one of the things I did to aim was coding of questionnaires. It's also that is how you start out for people to now know that okay, apart from coding questionnaires, you can go ahead to analyze their data for them. So coding of questionnaires is that most people would want to use printed copies of their questionnaires.
Please, I have a
Sometimes it's
question.
5-page, like okay. Okay, I'm not
Yes,
here. Hello, she's speaking. Roland, you can ask your questions.
Roland,
I think your network is bad. So your network is good. You listen to your question. So you can code questionnaires using Excel. I use Excel to code those kind of questionnaires. And then how do we code questionnaires? So I'm using coding of questionnaires as a practical way for data entry, right? So what I do is I collect, somebody calls me, hey Loretta, I want you to help me to code questionnaires for me. I said, okay. Then I go and person gives me this file. So inside the file, there are, let's say, 500 responses. 500 responses means that 500 different persons answered questions for this research. Now, each person answered questions that have like 5 pages or 3, depending, sometimes 2, but it's usually 3 to 5. So you need to code it. Now, they have different sections. I wish I can demonstrate how the questionnaire is. Now, they have the part where, let's say, they ask about the demographics of the person, your age, your name, where you're, how old, like how long you've been working in this field, those introductory parts about yourself before they enter deep into the main part of the questionnaire. So I'll tag that part A because that is section A. So let's say there are different sections. There's also section B. There's also section C. There's also section D. There's also section E. Now, under section A, we have questions 1 to 9. So what I would call it A1. Then
Loretta,
questions.
Loretta, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Is it possible that you would like use like an example, like any questionnaire you filled in the past or anything? I think it will be more relatable. That's if you have anyone in handy at the moment.
I don't have any questionnaire here to fill to code. I don't have any questionnaire here to code, but what we can do is such questions. Sorry. So we have something like this, and I would use this as an example. So it's not really clear, so it might give us an idea of what I mean, right? So this is like this section A, or rather, let's see if we can download it.
Sorry,
Here.
sorry to cut you short. Someone is suggesting if we can quickly create a questionnaire on Google, this thing using Google Doc. Is it possible?
No, I don't want to go through that.
Okay, okay.
So this is a questionnaire, and this is for the parts for section A, right? And then it has questions 1 to 6. This can actually do what you want to do. And I want to code the answers. Now, I sat with the researcher, and the researcher tells me that for this question 1, the correct answer is this option 3. But this one is yes, or this one is no, or this one is this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new worksheet that I'll call the code base. Code base. So what this code base does for us is that it tells us, it defines the answers, the correct answers, and what each one represents. For instance, right here, I have these whole people. So whenever I would go to my code base and I would say that whenever I have yes, it is 1. No, it is what 2. Now for gender, I can say, so you need to make it very descriptive. So let's say that this part is for gender. And then I have female. I have male. And then I would describe in my code base that this is female 1, this is male 2. Then if we are done with that part, then there's the part of marital status. Marital status. So you see where the option of flash field comes in. So instead of typing it a lot of times, I can drag it up to this point. So under marital status, maybe we have single, marriage. Coding of questionnaire is very tedious because it's a manual work. Because so then I can say that this is 1, 2, sorry. This column is not revised. 2, 3. So what this code base does is that even in the next 10 years, without telling anybody, somebody can come to the coded questionnaire and see that gender is females. Anywhere they see one under female, they're representing under gender, it is female. Anywhere they see two under gender, it is male. Then for marital status, anywhere there's one, it is single, two, divorced, or married, depending on what you wrote there. The same thing is applicable when you're doing SPSS. If you decide to recode, you have to also indicate it, right? So that is what your code bit does for you. Apart from that, then you can't have that the right answer here. So this is usually for the part of your demographics where you talk about gender of the person. Of course, the name is not going to be able to maintain anonymity. The gender, the marital status, maybe duration that you have been working, or you're learning the number of months you have been learning something, depending on what the questionnaire is. So this is like you have to write every single of them down and then tell us that they are using one to denote single, they're using two to denote marriage, they're using three to denote divorced, right? Then for this part of the question, you will have done with those parts, and then you want to start coding the questionnaire itself from the parts. So this part is section A. So now section A has question of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And after this section, there's another part where it asks another set of questions, and it starts from 1, 2, 3 to 9 again. So how do you differentiate section A, questions under section A from questions in section B? So this is where you now have the actual data. So code base is just to define that anywhere you see female 1, and I'm referring to gender, I mean female. Anywhere you see 2, and I'm referring to gender, I mean male. That's what code base does. A description, it's like metadata. What they do call it is metadata, description about the data. So then the data itself, I can now have here, I'll have A1, here, A2, here, A3. So instead of repeating, I can now highlight these cells and drag it across just to tell Excel that this is what I have in mind. Follow my pattern A1 to A9, right? I'll do the same thing for B. So I have B1, B2, and then just B3. Then I'll just drag it again. So you can see that autofill, it can do across rows, it can do across cells. It is very helpful. Like it can save me a lot of times when I'm doing things I would have manually been typing for ages. So now these are the things. So now when we were with the researcher, he used one questionnaire, this one, and marked under this part as the correct answer, this one as the correct answer, this one as the correct answer. And then your code base, you already defined these things. That this part, option A is 1, this one is 2, this one is 3. And under yes is 1, yes, no is 0. So the correct answer here, it is let's say the correct answer is this first option. So under A1, I'll write 1. Then I'll check what did she tell me is the correct answer here, 0. And I know that what she tell me is the correct answer here is no. And I know that no represents 2. I'll come to my question and write 2. 3. What did she tell me is the correct answer here? It is indoor. I know that indoor is 1 from my code base. I'll come here and write 1. I'll go to A4. What did she tell me is the correct answer? She said the correct answer is seasonal festivals. And in my code base, I've already defined seasonal festivals to be 3. I'll come here, I'll write 3. Now, so this is what you keep doing to answer a whole questionnaire. For this part, yes and no. And she told me that the correct answer is no. Remember that no represents 2. I'll write 2. Then for the A6, she told me that the correct answer is yes. Yes means 1, so I'll write 1. This response, this whole row is for just one person that has answered. The mistake you will make is entering these things vertically. Each row represents one person. Each row represents one person. What do I mean? Remember, in the beginning, I told you that we have 500 responses, meaning that 500 people answered those questions. So I'm expecting that the answers you're answering, answer it row-wise because each row represents one person. This is the responses from just one person. If I finish entering everything about his own up to this point, I will drop that part, that questionnaire. I'll pick up another one. I will start from 2 and 3 rather. I would enter all his responses accordingly. Once I reach the last page, I'll drop it. I'll pick another one and go to 4. So that's how you keep entering the responses that somebody did. And at the end, what you just be seeing in Excel is just numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, 1. It might not make sense to you, to an outsider, but with the help of your code base, and so that when somebody comes, you can then start analyzing and know that, okay, people who answered, let's say that this person answered 2, this person answered 3, this person answered 1, this person answered 3, this person answered 1, this person answered, like, depending on what people answered. So I can now analyze this whole thing and know at the end the people that got the correct answers, the ratio of the correct answers to the wrong answers. So the thing I want you to note, the basic things you should note in this is that, first of all, you should learn how to type things into cells. Not everybody that can type things into Excel. So first of all, can you type into Excel, into a cell? Whatever you want to type, after typing it, just enter to go to the next one. Enter to go to the next one. Or I want to move to my right, I'll use my arrow key. After typing something, I'll write 2. I'm done typing for this cell. I'll use the right arrow key to go to the next cell. Because you need to be fast, else you sleep there. Then I'll use the arrow again. So that is how I type. I type something and I go to the next cell. I type again, I go to the next cell. That's number 1. Entering data into cells in Excel. Then for this our own example in particular, this questionnaire has so many sections. Section A, section B, section C, section D, up to maybe section F. Now, under section A, there are 5 questions or there are 10 questions. So you now give them A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7, A8, A9, pending. Then you have B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, depending. So that's the second part. Then you start entering the questions based on the answers that people give. So each row represents me, my responses. This row, the next row represents maybe Kennedy's responses. The next row represents another person's response. So you don't make the mistake of entering it column wise. Enter it row wise because we already defined it as row wise, A1, A2, A3, right? Now, the responses that will be here is depending on what I gave. When they shared questionnaire, Kennedy ticked, I ticked 1 for question 1. In question 2, I ticked no, no is 2. In question 3, I ticked maybe yes, yes is 1. For Kennedy's own, when they gave me the question, instead of answering 1, he ticked 2. So I will put 2 here, and that's what he answered. The next one, he still picked no, which is 2. I ticked 2. The next one, maybe this one's gender question. He picked, or marital status question. He picked 3. He ticked, let's use on this. The person ticked divorce under his marital status, and I know that marital status is 3. So I'll write 3 here. So that's how you keep entering the data till you are done assigning all Kennedy's, coding all Kennedy's answers, and then you move to the 4th person. So that's how you keep picking the questionnaires one after the other, depending on their responses. And at the end, you would have a sheet of numbers that might look very abstract to somebody else. But with the help of the code base, the person might have an understanding of what we did at the end. It also helps your researcher to know that, to be able to track when you did something that is reliable or not, because Some people might give you their questionnaire in a bid to do a fast work. You just enter numbers randomly. Now, the researcher can pick up. The other thing is that you need to number the questionnaires. How do you know person that is A1? So if it's a physical questionnaire, I do number at the front end, like the first page, maybe by the right hand side. You give it 1, 2, 3. You number it 1 to 100. So if the researcher wants to cross-check whether you did his work well, he might pick the questionnaire at random, pick the one that you numbered 5, and then come and cross-check what you coded. Then you might pick another one randomly, 18, and cross-check what you coded. So that is how they do know that, okay, you actually did this work, or not do it well. But you coded randomly or followed the correct answers that we got discussed. So that is how you do your coding of questionnaires, right? And so with this, I hope that if you're a researcher here, you can code your questionnaires yourself. Apart from the fact that it's very tedious, like it's a very manual job. Sometimes your back will ache you because you need to code up to 300 responses, and you need to be fast because you cannot sleep there. Person I need it in the next 3 or 5 days. So that is how to code questionnaire, and that is what we use for our data entry. So data entry simply means being able to type into Excel cells accurately, knowing how to format it at the end. So I don't know if we picked that. So this is an example. One row is one respondent. One column is one variable. You don't merge cells, and you don't leave blank. You don't leave blank rows. For example, here, instead of me using this place as number, for the next person, I'll leave this place blank and start coding it. What you mean is that the third person, because the third questionnaire was not answered. That's what it means. That the person did not answer any question. If the person actually did not answer any question, then you might leave it blank. Like leave it blank. But if the person answered questions, there's no need of giving gaps because each row is one person. That's what I mean by don't leave blank rows. Like that's the rule. No blank rows. Because a row means somebody's response. You will leave it blank if the person does not actually answer questions. Because there are people that you share questionnaires, they don't answer it. Sometimes they even remove it. If you're a researcher, might remove it before even giving me the questionnaire to code. Because when you're preparing questionnaire, you prepare more than the number that you needed, and then share them. It's not everybody that's going to answer it for you. So those ones that are not answered, they remove it before giving it to you to code. So I don't think there's any need to ever leave a row blank. Then this is for coding. The code book might look like this: the variable, the response, and the code. Gender, male, female. 1 represents male, 2 the female. Status, marital status, single and married. That is how you keep defining it till you're done. Now, there are new tools that people do use. Kobo toolbox. But then you need to find someone that knows how to design the questionnaires in Kobo toolbox so that it automatically code those questionnaires for you. Especially if you are sharing health data, if you're into health analytics and it's online, because that's where it works. Use your phone and ask somebody question physically. Person answer this, click it, and at the back end, it codes it directly. So it's an app or it's a software that you can use to code online questionnaires. But if it is physical questionnaires, you most likely use Excel to code it before doing analysis, either on SPSS or other tools. So do we repeat this or we are clear on it?
Please, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I think I missed something you said when you talk about the app, but if that's the answer to my question, maybe you can just reiterate it. This one we talked about now is if you're using a manual questionnaire.
Yes.
So my first question in the manual questionnaire is, I know sometimes when you give us a questionnaire, people may not answer all of the question. So there's
Yeah.
a particular question like say B2, B5 that was not answered. Are you free to leave it blank? Or is there
Yes.
something you're supposed to, okay, it should be blank, just like that?
Yes. Can leave it
Okay.
blank.
Sorry, excuse me, please. Hold on. Please, sorry. Okay, my next question is if it's the Google form, like the online questionnaire, how
Yeah.
do we code it? Is that what you refer to as an app or something? As in, is it the same way that we're going to do it? Do we need to print it or maybe give a number to each of the respondents, maybe print out their names? I don't know. How do we go about that one? Thank you.
Okay. So if it's a Google form, you can actually it can be coded manually. And then Google Forms are manually in the sense that the, the questions, so there's going to be, because you know that when you fill a Google form, the person who, what is it called? The person who set up the questions is going to be viewing your responses from the back end, right? So from that back end, depending on how it is displayed, will most likely show how it should be coded. Sometimes you might see it already coming out in numbers if you might need to work in the numbers, like in the sense that if I share Google Forms and there are male, female, sometimes when people click that male, female, it might appear as the male, female on their own back end because it's the back end database that you use at the end. When I view from my end, it appears in that person's back end. If you view from your own end, it appears in the person's back end. So it depends on how it is viewed. If it is viewed in the way that it is showed in the front end means the way I'm seeing it, male, female, then I might need to now code it manually. If it is viewed in 1, 2, 3, then it has actually done it for you. It depends on your configurations and how you do it, set it. So to avoid that, people use many tools. One of them is Kobo Toolbox. One of the tools is Kobo Toolbox. So Kobo Toolbox is you so everything you need to know is actually online. So can research on it, Kobo Toolbox, but you might need one second. So that's like this part. So it's an app that people set this whole thing that we are doing manually, right? They on their back end, they already said that one is this. So as you're entering female in your front end, it is being coded automatically. And then you can download both the coded parts and the ones where people answer their questions manually. So it all depends on what you see on your end as the researcher who owns the questionnaires when people finish answering it. If you use Google Form and at the end of the whole answering, it is already coded, then you start working with it the way it is. But then if it is not, then you might need to update with it. Or you can use other tools that's like Google Toolbox to do the whole thing. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any other question? Are we confused on this coding part?
Yes, but please, I have questions concerning it.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go on.
Okay, please, what's the reason for this code book? Like, what type of research requires that with this kind of questionnaire you have to give code for the answers? These of the normal the Google form type and all.
Okay. Can you repeat your question again? Sorry.
It's like I'm asking that because this is my first time getting to know about this type of research and having to like code it based from the people's response. So I'm asking like what's the reason? Is it that you don't want people to know the person's answers? Like what's the reason for this code book on that when they respond? Look at the way you said that female stands for two mail stand for one? Like, what is it being coded this way? Is that you don't want people to know about it or
Okay.
something?
Oh, okay. I get your question. So now there are some statistical analysis you want to do that you cannot do with text, that you have to convert to numbers. SPSS is very strict on it, right? And then some researchers, when they come, they'll tell you that they want to the software that they use, because if you're into research right now, all of that, you would see that some people say this thing was performed using SPSS version this. This one was run using Python version this. So they will be very specific that they want it to be SPSS that you use for the analysis. And then you're finding out that some of the questions are in text format. And for you to do some statistical tests, you cannot use textual this thing. You will need to code it. So if I checked some, the the work I'm doing, you have to maintain people's privacy when you're doing the work. So I would have shared one of the. So there are some. To answer your question directly, there are some statistical tests you want to do that you cannot perform on textual functions. So in that instance, for you to do it, you might need to code it and then give it labels. So that label is this code base we are doing. In Excel, you can call it code base, but in SPSS, it's labels. So it will appear beside it. So those ones, but the ones that you can, and then it serves two purposes actually. It is faster for you to just like have everything in numbers, so that if whether you are doing textual functions or you are doing statistical tests that require numbers, you don't have to like keep recording your work at every point. If you are doing normal descriptives, let me not be abstract. If you are doing normal descriptives, you can, whether you use male, female, whatever, decide not to say, prefer not to say, whether you use it like that, it does not matter, because at the end, what you just need is a frequency table, the number of males that appear, and their percentage, the percentage to the total, right? It does not affect. Now, if you are doing some other things like, let's say you want to run, is it odds ratio? Something like odds ratio or logistic regression, especially if you are doing by logistic regression in SPSS. If you code it, it will tell you that this option, the option of sex might not even appear in things you should put under covariates. So when you open SPSS, I don't think I should be going into SPSS. That's where the gates. So while it is booting up, I don't think we should actually be going into it, because we might be debating and we're already short of time. We've not done a lot of things. So to answer the question, like what I need, if you are doing some things like descriptives, you want to describe the gender, you want to describe how many people are married. Descriptives is how many people are married, how many people are male, how many people are female. Running it with the way it is male, female does not affect. But there are some specific functions you might want to do, especially if you are using statistical tools that you might need to code, right? So everyone starts with spaces so that you can move forward. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma. Okay, last question. Please, which Excel are you using for this?
I think I'm using version 13.
The more like the old model, the old version.
No, it's the newer version. Either I'm using 13 or 15.
Okay, because what I'm asking is because when I tried to download, I saw that of the Copilot own 360, but it requires subscription. So I wanted to like know which one is
Exactly.
advisable to download and use.
If you have the money or the way to work around that subscription, you can. So what we do, what most people use is the cracked version of Excel. So the cracked version now, I don't pay for anything. Having Excel version 13 or 15. But people that actually subscribe to this 360, you would have that co-pilot, and co-pilots, it will incorporate both the AI parts. So it's either you find the workaround on the subscription and still use Microsoft 365, or you can go for this version that are already cracked, or somebody can give you their code and password to use if you want higher versions.
Okay, please, what do you mean by cracked version? Is it like web-based version of it?
Cracked version is um like that. This is a recorded space. So cracked version is that somebody gives you something. Usually you should have a password or a code that you enter so that you can be able to access the features, but they have already cracked it. So you just install it normally. And it will not require those password and code.
Okay, and it's
And
also
you,
free as well.
yes, and you still have access to all those features.
Okay, please, how do we then access, like, how can we download it?
You can make a research online. If the one you get online is not a request for code, then you can visit all the cyber cafes that do install things for people.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So moving away from that, have till 9 o'clock. But what we are doing, I think that coding is the hard part here. We are done with almost everything. So for today's so the next one is how to do
Sorry,
basic.
Loretta, sorry. There are questions in the chat box. Please, I think it's better you unmute and you ask your question, right? Because we won't have time to be looking at the chat box unless the tutorial is done. So I'm seeing just one question. The person is asking, what's the question again? Okay, that in questionnaire coding, if you are using responses, if the responses are in Likert scale, that's the Likert scale, would the coding be different?
Sorry, if
Please, Valentine, I think can you unmute and ask your question, Valentine?
Okay.
The person is saying, okay.
Okay. Good evening.
good evening, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening to you. Okay. What I was asking was about if in the codification of questionnaire, if the responses are constructed in the Likert scale, like agree, strongly agree, like and not like direct yes or no responses. Like, would the coding be different, like in terms of like assigning one or two? Like, would it vary the coding? Like, if it was like Likert scale, like judging the degree of agreement or disagreement with a particular answer.
Okay, so in most cases, you might not code like skilled questions because what they do require is still the case of descriptive, the number of persons that fall under strongly agree or not. But then if at some point what you want to do requires that you code it, does not affect the number that you assign. So that's why you have the code base. Whatever you decide to give the answers does not really affect. So you might decide to say that, okay, strongly disagree is 1, disagrees 2, neutral is 3, agrees 4, strongly agrees 5. Now you know that there are some questions that are negatively worded, right? In fact,
Yes,
the
yes,
coding of
yes.
questionnaire is actually another topic on its own. Why I brought it up is that so that we can have both the idea and just use it for data entry. So if I start explaining the whole thing about coding questionnaire, might not go. So let me just, since I've mentioned it, questions that are negatively worded and positively worded. If they are positively worded, means that okay, it is good that you wash your hands before you attend to patients. It is positively worded. So people that answer strongly agree, strongly disagree, you leave it that way. You put it as A. That they say this. If I agree from the beginning that strongly disagrees 1, disagrees 2, neutral is 3, agrees 4, strongly agrees 5. If the answers, if that question in particular is a positively worded question, I would code it as it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, there's another question that says that after using a needle for one patient, I should use it for another person. Now, I need to be careful of the examples I'm using. The first one is I wash my hand before attending to patients. It is okay. Yes. Then the next one is use needle that you use for somebody else, for another person. If I say that my answer is strongly agree, you know that I don't know that I'm using the correct answer, but I don't know why I'm using the correct questions at this point because I've not sat down and thought about it. But then if it is negatively worded, if I answer strongly agree at that point, I am not answering the correct question. So I might need to reverse my coding, but strongly disagree to become 5 and strongly agree to become 1. So you might need to check up on negatively worded question and positively worded questions so that maybe you can have more idea on it. But to answer your questions, if the statistical test you want to do cannot accept textual text or strings, you might need to code them. Now, if you decide to assign 5 to strongly disagree and 1 to strongly agree, it's all dependent on you. Just make sure you're consistent with it. Do you get?
Yes, yes. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So now let's go into basic formulas. These things are what we know, so it's not going to waste time. The only thing we want to see is how do you do it in Excel? I want to add 10 and 5. I want to subtract, I want to minus. How do you do it? This is what we know. So let's use it in Excel. Now, we'll go back to this place and we'll use this number is not good. Let's merge here. This will be next. So this is 23, 25, 27, 28, any number at all. First, that first something that we can use. Then I also have for age, let's say I don't want this thing to be age, I want it to be quantity. Let's give a real life example. So quantity, and then the price. So you know that this price, let's say, is 200 for each unit. Price per unit is what we have here. Then 200 again, 20. Good. So now, let's use this one for our basic formulas that we want to do. So I want to check what patients paid. So patients bought 23 units of rice, and for each unit of rice, it is 200 naira. So this is in naira. Now, to check the quantity, like the price, you know when you buy something now, they want to calculate the price for you. So how do you do it in Excel? To tell Excel that you want to do any calculation, you must start it with an equal to sign. So if you don't put an equal to sign, Excel will think that you're just entering data. So all the times you'll be entering 23, it was going smooth. You did not require it to do calculation. But once you put equal to, it signals that I want to do calculation here, so your mind should be there. So now I can now do 23 multiply. So multiply is asterisk, then 200. Then I'll do equal to, it multiplies it for me, right? Then I want to do this one. I'll still do equal to 25 multiply 20. I'll do it times it for me. So you will keep doing it manually, right? So that is how you do calculation. So now I want to do division. Just for example, I'll do 100. I do 100 divided 25. You see that it still leaves it as a text because there is no equal to. It does not know that you want to do a calculation. So to make it calculation, I'll come here and put my equal to, and then to observe it. I want to do subtraction. I'll do 34 minus 7. No equal to sign. So Excel does not know you want to do calculation. So I'll come to the front and put equal to sign. And then it does this calculation for me. So anything you want to do that is calculation or function or anything, you must use equal to. If I want to use my if function, if I just write if, Excel does not know that I want to do if function. So you must use equal to and start it if. Then to now bring out the different if options that you should use. We are going to talk about these ones in our next class. So I just want to tell you that anything you want to do, whether it's or, whether it's and, anything that is function I want Excel to apply, that is not just you writing into the cell, you can start it with an equal to sign. So that's for it. Now, come back to this example. I don't want to manually be typing, because now to know the price, right, the total, I have to do quantity times price to know what the person actually should pay or has paid, depending on the case. So now, I don't want to keep doing 23 times 200. I'll come here, 25 times 20, and then there are up to 100 rows. The essence of having Excel is to make your life easier. So what can you do? You can use cell referencing. So I'm going to use this thing to explain both the formatting, the calculation part, and this part where we talk about cell referencing. Okay, so we are doing two things here now. So there's absolute referencing, there's relative referencing, and there is mixed, right? So now I want to calculate this part, so I'm going to the things I have here. Then I'll do equal to, and then I'll come and pick here. Fix it for me, E11. I just clicked on it. Then I'll put my times. And then I pick here too, or here rather, because that's what I want to do. And I just do equal to, it does the same thing for me. Now, I can now do my autofill to tell Excel, okay, do the same calculation all over. So now, if you want to see if what you did was correct, if you hover on this and look at our formula bar, you will see that what is calculated is this and this, which is what we want to do. I'll do here. You need to be careful though. So let's drag it down. So if I hover here, it tells me that to get this thing, it's calculated this and this, E12 and F12. And E12 is this is E12, this is F12, right? Then so it will keep dragging it down. So now this is relative. It is relative because as you are going down or going up, if I drag it to the side, it will be relative to the cell. It will go relative to my direction. It is not static. It is moving. It is relative. So those are the synonyms. I don't know which one to use, but the term they use is relative. So now, here it's showing us. So there are different type of errors. So this is the type of error when you're seeing hash, hash, hash. It's because it is timesing something with something that is not existing. So what it times here is F13 and G13. So this is my column F. 13 is this row. So F13 is what? Is 100. And G13, there's a number there, but what Excel is seeing is the formula there. So Excel cannot times your number and your formula. If I would want to use this thing as numbers, I would copy and paste as values. Remember when we talked about copy and paste as value? But we'll do that one later. Let's not delete. Let's focus on cell referencing and what the basic calculations. So now, that's why it is having this. So what brought this thing up is I'm trying to tell you that it is relative to your cell movement. You can drag it down to fill down. That means it will do 27 times 100, 18 times 50, 29 times 29, 13 times 34, 67 times 56. It is relative to the cell as it is moving. Now, I would want to use 23 to times all of these prices because I think that everybody who came that day bought 23 units. So instead of doing repetitive work, I would just make this one static. So if I come here, I would lock it. How do you lock? That is when you now do absolute. So you lock it by putting dollar signs. So I'll put dollar sign here and I'll put dollar sign here. I have locked both the cell. Now remember, column wise is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Then row wise is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to wherever you want it to be. So now I'm locking both column wise and the cell wise because I want you to keep picking just this number. Just this number. Don't move to 25. Don't move to E12, E13, E14, E15. Just keep picking E11, right? This E11, yes. So now let's drag it down and see what's the difference. So if you see that the value is changed, so if you come here, it did 23 times 200. It gave us this one. You come here again. Because we locked this part, it did not change. It kept picking 23 times 20. The next one, it picked 23 times 100. That's why we're having 2100 because I locked it. So it depends on what you want to achieve. Remember, you have to know what you want to do first. Why do I need to lock this cell or should it be relative? So you need to know what you want to do first before you decide whether your cell should be relative or should be absolute, right? Remember the example I gave you. Why I'm using absolute in this instance that I have figured out that everybody bought 23 quantity, like 23 units of whatever they bought that day. Maybe 23 units of rice. You also bought 23 units of curry. Also bought 23 units of whatever. Everything you bought is 23. So why will I stress myself to start doing other things? I can just simply use 23, keep it standby, then pick the prices for each of the different products that the person bought and use 23 to multiply your through. Another example might be that trying to think of example that has a fixed unit. So let's say that if you want to do the what is this math formula that has 1/2 area of a triangle? It's 1/2 times breadth times height. 1/2 times breadth times height. So this is the formula for area of a triangle. Now 1/2 is already 0.5. And I can write my 0.5 here. Now there are different triangles and for their different breadth and height. So let's say that these numbers are the breadth and the height of the triangle. Breadth of triangle A, height of triangle B, breadth of triangle. So now I want to get their area here. Let's calculate the area. So now I can now say that this 0.5 is static because it will, for whatever breadth and height of the triangle, we must end up multiplying it by 0.5. So now I know what to do. I want to multiply 0.5 by both the breadth and the height. So at every point, I will always pick it. And for me to pick it, I will just write equal to, sorry, not here, 0.5. I want to do it here. So I'll do equal to. Once I do my equal to, I'll come and pick it. So I've picked it now. I'll go and lock it. So I'll lock it by putting $sign, lock the row, then lock the column. Right? Now I'll come back. I'll put times. Remember, 0.5 times breadth times height. So for this particular one, the breadth is this. And the height is this. And then I'll do equal to. So this gives me the area of this triangle. If I drag it down, this is what I'm having. If you check it, it will always times by 0.5. 0.5 can never change. It can never change to lock it. Now, for instance, assuming I did not lock it, what do you think will happen? What do you think it will happen? To come here and to be relative to the cell as you're moving down, it would expect a number to be here, to not see any number. So let's see the error that will come out. So let's say that we didn't lock that 0.5. Then I'll do what? It will give you the answer for the first one, then drag it down. You would see that what happened. It came here. It said it is related to the cell because as you're moving down, it's supposed to go down. It came to J11. This cell is J10. That's why this one worked. Let's start from here. J10. So when we check, the J10 is what? 0.5. Okay. Then times E11. E11 is what? This is E. This is 11. You saw 23. Fix it. times F11. F11 is what? 200. It picked it. It was good to go. It came to the next one. Okay. J11. It picked J11. Is there anything in J11? No. And you know that once nothing is there, it is 0. So it will just automatically not work because 0 times anything, we eliminate the whole thing. So in this instance, we want 0.5 to always times whatever we are having. So you must lock it. So you know how to use absolute referencing and what's it called? Relative referencing. Relative referencing, when you want things to move in a direction, as you are moving, it should go along with you, just like we did for total. We want to do 23 times 200, 25 times 20, 27 times 100, so you should move. Now, relative or absolute, you want to lock it. Now, there is mixed. So there are 3 types mixed. You want it to move either row-wise or column-wise. For example, if I'm trying to use up another example. So let's say we put another column here. So how I added column now, I did Control Shift plus. So that's how I add columns. You want to delete it, you do Control Shift minus. So now I want to move, because all this while you are moving downwards. I want to move row-wise, right? Then I would select this. So I would cross this to this point. I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. So now we want to do mixed. So mixed is that is either I lock myself this point. So now I have locked. What I locked now is that it should always be big values from column E, but it is free to move to 12, 13, 14, 15, but it cannot move to F, right? So now what we did is that we, even if I drag this thing up to this point, it will always pick from column E. Let's drag it down. I want to make sure that it is only column E that is locked. So here we have column E locked, locked. So we are picking from 23, 25, 27, 23. I don't want it to ever multiply by the price, right? So what I want to do is I want to do quantity times total, quantity times data. I don't want it to ever pick price. So even if I drag this to this point, what it did for me is I want this formula to also apply here. Good. So now it picked E11 times G11, E11 times H11. On a normal day, if you drag this thing, it's meant to go and pick F11 times H11. So I think we should do a scenario where we do both locking it and not locking it so that you see the difference I'm trying to. Because if I talk, you might not really understand. So let's add another cell. So this cell is the part where we want, what we want to do is that we want to always times quantity with total. So for me to do it, I need to pick things from E11 and multiply it with G. So now this response, so we have to log G because we want to pick from quantity and the total, right? So now we did here, and remember that cell referencing, instead of always typing things, you can drag things across. So I dragged this thing, and then what it did is that it picked E11. Did we lock everything? Sorry. Just want to log the column. So it picked E11, multiply it by this. And then if you drag to this point, it's still going to pick your E11. So when we try this part, I want the formulas first of all apply downwards. Good. Then drag it to this point. So let's see the difference. So maybe you can observe the difference yourself. So instead of highlighting all of these things, I would have simply just selected all of these things and drag it this way. It will still do the same thing that it would have done before instead of picking it one by one. So yeah. Now let's see the difference of what we're doing. We're trying to demonstrate the mixed. The mixed is that you want to lock one part and leave the other part open. So what we are trying to do is that we want it to always pick values from E, never move to F, irrespective of how we move, right? So now, for this particular part, it picked E11 times G11. This place, it picked E12 times G12. This part, it picked E13. It's following the order that we gave it because we locked both sides. So here we locked this formula. Let's look. So this is what I want to do. I want to log quantity and total. So when we check what we have here, we have E11 and F11. It didn't move. We have E12 and H12. So it actually moved, meaning that the locking part didn't work. H12, H13, I think I'm confusing this. So let's use another example to do for mixed. So we have 23, 25, 21, 20. I'll just have 2, 3, 4, 5. Just a simple example. So on a normal day, if you do equal to this multiplied by this, right? It is, I will drag it down. We are doing the relative referencing because it is relative as it is moving. Now, you want to lock everything. So you can just pick this part and lock it. So you lock it in the formula. So we have this and this. So we've locked E2, meaning that it should always multiply with E2. So if I drag it, it's going to multiply with E2. And then if I move here, what is supposed to do? It's supposed to go and pick this number. This one times this is what is going to give me here because I am moving. If it is relative, I'm meant to have 2 times 46. As I drag this formula here, it's meant to follow it to the next cell. 2 times 46. But once we lock it, it's not going to move. It's going to maintain that position where we blocked it. So that's like the difference. Which I could do more examples that can explain the differences between absolute, relative, and mixed. So maybe you can do more examples and know the difference. So that's like how to do your arithmetics, functions, basic calculations using cell references, right? So now you can now have your sum, your average, your max, mean, and count. So we can also demonstrate that quickly. So for this part, I might need to just separate it. So now we want to do be able to have our count, max, mean, sum, and what else? The even range. Range is maximum minus minimum. Then another thing, average or mean. So in Excel, you will not see mean, you will see average. Right? So we start with the average. So once you know the average price, So remember, I start with equal. So now Excel has predefined functions that you can use to do these things already. So one of them is still this average. So you can do average average. Then you select the numbers you want to. So you want to average this whole thing. So you can select them. So once you select them, to give it the range, then just cover it. This is the average of the total, right? Then for the sum, the same thing, sum. So there are different sum, but we'll go that when we start the next class. This one is just to introduce us to the basic. There's sum if when there's condition, one condition, some ifs, some products. Most times you end up using between 1, 2, 3. Some ifs and the normal sum. So we just use this. Then it highlights want to know the total. So instead of doing this, sorry, instead of doing this plus this plus this plus this. So all those manual things, that's where sum comes in. You can just write sum. Select the ranges. So this is called cell range. This cell range is from G11 to G17. Select the ranges, then this is it. Same thing for your main. So I don't know, is anybody their system? Can you do main for us? Or from manually observing?
I didn't get the question, please.
What's the what's the minimum value here before we calculate?
I think that's 442 now.
442.
All right, that's correct. So you can also do max. I just wanted to know if we are here. Well, I'm the only person on the call, so I needed to hear your voice. That's why I asked the question. So can do max. So same thing with count. So count is like count the number. Like if you do sum, you're doing this plus this plus this. So count is just know how many values are here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what you want to do. So you just select the cell range again. It tells us that there are 7 numbers that we're dealing with. So we have just 7 people's data. So now, for you to do the range, you know that range is the highest number minus difference between the highest number and the lowest. So you cannot use your max and this. Then this is our range, right? So these are the basic calculations you do in Excel. So hope that you can do some basic calculations in Excel now. First of all, to summarize, you must start it with an equal to sign to Excel that you want to do a function or I want to do a calculation. And then depending on what you want to do, you use cells instead of typing things. Because after this class, you still see people that when they want to do some calculation, and it's a lot of things. Let's say you have up to like 100 rows, they will still end up doing 20 times 400 times 200. They'll do equal to, they'll do again 20. So instead of typing, why not just use the cell references, then drag it down, use your formula, drag it down, like we did here. So you know, depending on what you want to do you want to lock it totally absolute, or you want it to be mixed, where you lock only the cell and leave the rows to go down, or you want to lock the rows and leave this column. So that's for mixed. Most times you might not use mixed, but you need to know about it just in case there are cases you need to do. Now, the beautiful thing about this whole thing, because whenever you're doing something in this age of AI, you also need to like tell. I also thought to bring up that we're in age where you don't have to cram a lot of things. Somebody's not muted. Please, maybe you can mute your mic. You are in the age where you don't have to cram.
Loretta, please, can you unmute? I just muted everyone. Can you unmute?
I can't hear her.
Okay, sorry. So I was saying that to chip in before we round off for tonight, we are in the age of AI where you don't have to cram anything, right? You are doing something, you get confusing, you can do a Google search. Now, it is different from letting AI do the work for you because now most of us will go and carry somebody's data, go and put it in AI and to give you both the right answer and the wrong answer. So first of all, you need to know what you want to do. I want to do a calculation that we always pick 0.5. And I don't know whether I should use absolute referencing or relative reference. I can always search it here when to use absolute or relative or most. Then maybe you can even talk about your own example. Copilot will give you the example reference. Where you would use this more, Google a lot, is when you want to do some nested if functions. Maybe you wrote an if function, you click enter to bring up error for you. You do it again to bring up error for you. You are tired of doing it. You can just copy that your function. You can just copy that your function and then paste it here so that it would correct it for you. So yeah, like I said, when the age where you don't have to cram a lot of things, you can always like search it, Google search things to make life easier for you. So I think we've covered this. The last thing we'll do before we go is sorting and filtering, then removing duplicates. Then we'll now talk about useful shortcuts that you can use, right? Then we'll now give a class challenge that everybody can go ahead and attempt. So how do you do sorting and filtering? So now let's say that I want to filter these things. I want it to filter based on the alphabets. So what I can do, I can click this and I can do Control C. I want to turn it into a proper table because that will make me to be able to do it. So what I do is that I highlighted the part where I want to turn to table. Then I did Control T. So the Control T will then format it to a table. So with this table now, I don't really like this thing because the color is not good. Maybe we can use this. And then I can format this one to have black for uniform. So now, let's work with this. So we delete this part. So we delete this part for to make it clear. So now, we want to sort this based on the alphabet. So I can either come here. So this is the option for sort and filter. Sort it. So it will arrange it from John, Patience, to Uchi. Now, it will arrange it. It will also move their numbers. It does not make John to become age 13. So before we do this thing, let's observe. John John Henry, female, 67 years, 56. Now I select this part and I filter. I do something. So I select my table. This is for find and replace. Let's go to data. So our sort and field is not active. So I select a cell and I want to filter based on A to Z. So what it will do is it will to sort it. Sort means arrange it ascending or descending order from John, patient, Uche. So we have 67, 57, right? And then we have patients 23, 200. If we want it to sort from A Z to A, we can also do that Z to A. Now this is for numbers. We want to sort. We want to sort using the numbers. So you can see that automatically it's already changed what we had when we were in letters. So you can sort from smallest to largest, largest to smallest. When we're dealing with letters, observe what happens. You click on sort and filter. It sorts from A to Z. But if you're dealing with numbers, it sorts from smallest to biggest. So it changes the pattern, meaning that the person with the lowest quantity. If you want to sort by price, click anywhere inside the price column, go to your sort and filter, then sort from smallest to biggest. So it will sort everything starting from the people, products with the lowest price. Same thing with the total. I want to sort using my total, so I'll do smallest to this. Now, this is important when you are doing charts. For instance, if I insert a chart here, just so that we have a visual. I'll go to the insert. This chart. I want to do just I'll leave it like this because we're not really doing much. So now I want to, you can see that it is arranged. Assuming that this is scattered, I want to say that this is 23 just to scatter the cells. This is so I'm trying to tell you that if you don't sort it, your chart might not really be arranged the way you would want it. So now you can see that like they're up and down. You're not like really observing any trend here. But if you want to sort, so you want to sort from the smallest to the biggest. Then I sort from smallest to biggest. Using the price. It will arrange it for me. So why it is having a lot is that we are doing 3 charts in one. Usually we should just select either the quantity, then the gender. Let's say we want to add chart for this, just this two. Then so we insert those charts. This. So this is what I want to do. At this point now, it is not arranged. I want to sort it. Remember, we just did the male and the quantity. So I would click anywhere inside my chart, inside my quantity. Then I'll go to sort and filter. I'll sort from smallest to biggest. And then it's easier for me to look at the arrangement of how it goes. So that's like a very simple example. When you should sort and to filter. So to filter, if I click this drop down, it tell me that there are both females and males. So I would deselect all these things. I want to see just for females. So if I click OK, to remove every other thing that does not concern female, and pick female for me. If I want to select it back, I would select everything. Click OK. I'll come here. I'll click this thing. I would see that the persons here are John, patients, and Uche. I just want to see how many people appears as John here. I'll click it. There's only one person that appears as John. So I'll go back. So you would know the importance of this thing when you start working with data itself. Right? Because now there are 5, there are 1, 2, 3, I think 7 persons here. But there are duplicates. Out of these 7 people, there are only 3 unique names: John, patients, and Uche. And that's what filtering does for you. It helps us to know the unique people that are in the data sets, number one. It helps us to boil down to just one person that we're interested in, or two people. We want to see the people that are itchy, patients. So it helps you to filter out things that you don't know, just like the name says, or to leave the things that you want. So I can do okay, right? Now, the last part of this thing that we want to touch is duplicates. So do the duplicates, I'll go to my data and then look for the duplicates. Disrespectfully. So at a glance, we already know that there's a duplicate, right? This is the sort of filter. Duplicate should be. So you remove duplicates. Use first name. We're interested in just first name. Slouch. Okay, and just leave them there. No duplicates found. So why there's no duplicates found is that even though there are different features and patients, their surnames are not different, are not the same, and their SN are not the same. So if we want to actually remove the names that appear twice here, if you want to remove the names that appear twice here, I could just select here, and then I'll go to remove duplicates, and then I'll unselect everything. I'll just select the part I want to look at. Then it shows you just the unique names. So you have Uche, Patience, and John, and these are the unique people that we have here. So that's for filter, that's for sorting, that's for duplicates. We are learning this thing individually, but I structured this class to have 3 sessions. So in the last session, we are going to do like the project or the demo that would touch on all of these things that we did. Because you usually use these functions, these duplicates when you're doing data cleaning. You use e function mostly. All of these things are mostly when you're doing data cleaning. You use both your calculations, if your sorting, and many things. All of the functions are mostly when you're doing data cleaning. So we are going to do data cleaning. In our next class, we are also going to do the data cleaning like individually. How do you clean the text function? How do you clean numbers? How do you clean dates and format it properly? And some other things that are scheduled to be in the next class. So if the remaining things would be the shortcuts. So most times here, I've been doing a lot of shortcuts. You already know that copy is Control C, to paste Control B, undo is Control Z. To save this work, do Control S. To make it bold, like we did the last time, do Control B. So one of the most helpful things again for control or shortcuts is if you're handling a very large data set like this one, and I want to go down to the last row of this thing, I can use my arrow key and I'm going down. It's very tedious, or I can use Shift Control the arrow key down to take me to the last row. Just so that it also helps me to know that there is no missing value between them. For example, if I delete this thing and I come here and I do Control Shift down to stop at that point where there is no missing value, then you continue. You delete this part too and you do this thing, Control Shift down. Once it stops here, I know that there's a missing value. That's why it won't go straight down. If there is no missing value, once you do that, Control Shift down, Control Shift down, to automatically take you to the last row of your data set. That's another way I do check if there's a missing value in my data set. I manually just maybe scanning through it, or I can use my control shift down. So if there's a missing value, I'll know, okay, there's a missing value. Then I want to start thinking of how do I handle missing value, which we are going to treat in the next class. So that's one short key. Now, if you are down, control shift down. If I'm down and I want to go back up, right? I can just do control home. Take me to cell A1. I'm down, control shift down. And then instead of me now type wanting to go back and then press, I can just do control home. I can also control end. So this control end will take you to the last row of your column. Control home take you to the first cell of your column, A1. That's like the difference. Then other shortcuts will come out as we keep using Excel. I think that's like basically everything we need to cover just for today, so that we don't put too much time. Get anything. This is like our class assignment. Partially touched, but then you can decide to customize yours. But I want a situation where you have to enter these things, format the table, create the total column, do these calculations, total sales, average, and highest. Test yourself to know if you can do some of the things that you need to be. So if there's any question, so I'll check through the charts to see if we have questions.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, the first one is forgive me. The first one is the time. Please, can I be heard?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. After you talked about the questionnaire, then the coding, I was thinking that maybe at the end of the day, you now show us how to use it. So, am I right to assume that probably it will come in another class, how to now use this coded data now to now do the analysis proper? Or as in, is it within the scope of this work?
Okay. At this point, we've not cannot use it now. Maybe we'll use it to do an analysis in the next class. But then, so for coded questionnaires, usually I had not planned to use it for our capstone project because I was not having in mind that it would just be for research, because coded questionnaire is usually for research. If you are working with a company data, you are likely not going to use questionnaire. So I was trying to use a company data for demonstration in next classes. But since you have brought it up, you can find a way. Coded questionnaires would likely use it for people using SPSS. So I'm going to sign with the tutors to know if there is no way that you can use it in SPSS, then try to incorporate it in what the part of the class. So I don't know if that's
Okay. Okay, my second question, I know towards the end you were rushing, when you talked about the sorting, okay, I understood the last one, duplicates, it's easy. I think the second to the last among the things you explained last, I think there was three things, the charts, then some other thing, then the duplicates. I didn't get the second one well, but I know it's something that that's kind of easy. So I want to request that maybe in the next class, I know it's because of time, maybe when you want to do review of what was done, you can as well just review just that ending part, because you rush through it, and it's just be nice to just like a minute or two review on them if there's no time to look at it again now. Thank you, ma'am.
okay. So the last part of what we did were sorting, filtering, and condition duplicates. But I'm guessing you're referring to the filter option. Like,
The
this,
middle one is the one I didn't get so well.
this
The
without
second one.
right? By him, I said that's the filter, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes.
Yeah, you can do like you can do tonight. Okay, so let's say we do completed productive. So so we're trying to filter, right? Now, um, in most cases, you might want to convert your data to a table. Because that's where you see options more, like making your data set the way it is now. It's not a table. The way this thing is, it is not a table in Excel. It might be a table in Word because you have a real and a column. But what makes something a table in Excel is that it will have this drop down buttons where you view your data at a glance. Like this. This is not a table yet. It is just in rows and in columns. Once make it a table, I'll just do select. I'll just select anywhere again. Control-C. Then I'll make the table. So with this drop down now, I don't actually like this. So end up click here. So now let's say that we have something like this. So when we talk about data sets, this is like what you should work with. We like this is like a complete data set, not like a coded history. They are different things. Now I want to filter. I want to filter out for I think it's my complete. This is the only data set I can click. So let's say I want to filter out first of all let's look at it. So now they are different. I want to change this part. So have U A B C D E F like different letters. So now if I click on this drop down, it tells me that okay, these are the different things. These are the unique letters representing the values we have here. And I want to know how many of them are actually A. I'll deselect everything. I'll select A. And to show me that out of all these things, it is only this person on row 5. It is A. Then so that's what filter does for you. Filter it's like remove the things I don't need, show me only the things I select. So now I want to select everything. I want to see those that are E. There are only 2 people. That's people that fall on row 11 and row 18. So you will see that it actually shows you the row where they are, right? So if we go back to the old data set, now I click OK, you see that row 11, row 18 is E, and row 11 is E. So that's what filter does for you. I want to filter out a specific something. A very good example is that I'm doing an analysis and I want to see how many people are medical doctors in my research question. And maybe there's a question that we're interested in people that answer our questions are nurses, doctors, medical lab scientists, videographers, just this for I want to know how many how many people, like use my eyes to like have a visual knowledge of the people that are radiographers. Maybe they are denoted with R. I would select R, then to click OK to show me maybe there are 10 of them. And then I have to look at their names manually, their age, the duration of their working, how many years they have worked, or something like that. So filter is to show the information you need about a specific person that you have selected. So if you don't want to do it with this drop down, that is where you come here and use this data tab. So when you come here, you click this and then you can now filter. Filter. So if you turn this thing off, that filter button goes. You turn it on, it appears. Then this one is for sorting. What do you want to sort with? Click anywhere in the cell, put your sorting. Then tells you sort on what values. You want to sort by cell column, sort by what? You want to sort by this or this. Maybe I want to sort by this. Then I want to sort it by A to Z. Yes. I do okay. So it will change it. Bring out people that start A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. What to wait not from A. Because that's what I want to sort with. So sorting is arrangement. Filter is show me the things I'm just interested in. Duplicate, remove duplicates, right? So how do you know if there's a duplicate? Two people might answer the same name, but the unique identifier, I think I mentioned it in the last class. Let's say that these people now, this is their unique identifier. I don't think in this data set that two people can have the same OID. So if I want to remove duplicates, I would likely pick from here to use as my duplicates so that it removes values that appears twice. Because once there are two IDs appearing two times, it shows that I entered that value two times. So what you do is always on the data tab. Like I said, you can hover around these things. So if you don't know what this is, text the code, but we do it for cleaning text functions in SQL. So this is duplicate. So click here, remove duplicates. You can select everything because you want to remove duplicates based on the unique ID. Then I'll click just this option. And 12 duplicates value found are removed. Then it retained only the unique values. So this is what I'm working with now. So I think I've answered that question. Filtering.
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, we have 4 minutes more. Any other question? Um, any other question? So we don't have any other question on the chat box. I think that means that we've done justice to basics of Excel. So now Excel is not as scary as it might have seemed first time you open it. You can confidently enter data, format it, put others, make it good, do your text wrap, do some basic calculations. You know what is when somebody says cell reference, you know what the person is talking about in the cell. You know what is filter, you know what is sort, you know what is duplicate, and small things you don't think you picked up that you picked up today. So kudos to you coming to this class. I hope to see you in the next class. Thank you. Okay, please